to see you. I have flashbacks of when I first met you when you were like a little kid. Do you remember? I mean, it was like in New York City.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember some parties at your house too in Hollywood.
Oh,
You used
yeah.
to do really, really fun parties back in the day.
They were so fun. I used to throw the
Epic.
most epic parties. I'm so
Epic.
boring now. In all seriousness, your show was really important. It was so successful, huge ratings. It was a juggernaut.
It was a phenomenon for back in the day, and that was, before all these other talk shows like, like yours, and there were hundreds, literally hundreds when we were on the air that were trying to kind of get on the scene.
And then, yeah, the show was just like, it came onto the scene and it truly burst. And I was reading something, that you would get your inner Oprah on when you were doing your show. Is that true?
How I started when they gave me the pilot and I was 23 years old. I was like, all right, I'm just gonna channel Oprah. Like, what would Oprah say? What would she think? What would she ask? And that was how I started it, because I was a huge fan of hers. And yeah, I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, the idea of like having that kind of platform at such a young age, I mean, I didn't have a sense of who I was. I still am just figuring out who I am, It was a blast. And I look back on it so fondly. And I'm also glad I don't do it anymore.
It was a true rocket. And it's true. I've said, I'm so glad I didn't have this show before. Like, I'm only just now the least screwed up I've ever been. And I'm glad I get to do a job where I'm me and not someone else. It's good timing.
I think I'm best at playing myself, at being myself versus playing other people. I was an actor for a very long time, and I still do a little bit, but for the most part, I'm in my comfort zone when I'm being my authentic me.
It takes a long time too. Like, I would never want to go backwards. I fear ever being in my 20s again. Boy, gosh, I had so much fun. You came to the parties. We had good times. But it's like, it's true. I really appreciate you saying that. I don't know what number it is, but it's like growing up is not overrated.
No, and I do feel like at this point in my life, I don't really care what people think about me. It's like it matters less and less and less the older you get. I'm 52 years of age, and I have to say, at this point in my life, I'm probably the most comfortable I've been in my skin ever. And a lot of it goes back to just, a big transformation I did a year ago, where I shaved my head and kind of really went there and shared my story with the public. And I was struggling with hair loss for off and on for almost 3 decades. And I never had thick, hair to begin with. And so any hair that I would see on the pillow or in the shower was traumatizing. And yeah, it was my secret. I didn't even tell like my boyfriend. I didn't want him touching my hair. It was something just like I would stare at women's heads. I became obsessed with other people's hair. How does, are they wearing extensions? Is that real? Is that, and so it just was like this cyclical thing that was just, I was caught in a loop. And I'd reached a point where I was kind of at the end of my rope and I wanted to take matters into my own hands. And it was very scary. I didn't know what I would look like. And I also felt like I needed to be transparent with my audience and with the public. And so it was an unbelievable sort of rite of passage for me. And I feel like I've come into my own through this journey. And at the end of the day, my hair grew back, which is something I never expected. And so, yeah, I'm happy to talk about it and to maybe help other women and also tell people what worked for me.
Okay, I was just digesting everything you were saying because there's so much to unpack there in that. I love that you're sharing this with people because I assume you're not the only person who goes through this. But when you jumped off that precipice, was it every emotion, anger, exhaustion, and then was there met with a liberation? Was it as bad as you thought it might be for so many years to just go completely bald? Was it like, this wasn't as bad? Why didn't I do this sooner? Sorry, I have so many questions. I just think what you did was so amazing. And I believe that other people are on this journey.
Yeah, I think when the secret, when you tell your secret, it's never as bad as you think in your head, And I was so afraid of people saying mean things about me, that I look ugly, that, and when I wrote the post, when I did shave my head, which was for the 1st of January last year, and I did just like an Instagram post and I just shared authentically, the first thing I said is, look, I'm not sick. I don't have cancer. I don't have a mental illness. I don't, I put it out there, just, this is what I'm going through. And I think because it was probably the first time a woman had talked about this issue, it did strike a chord with so many others, and it is so prevalent, so in sharing your secret, I mean, for me, I'm also a sexual abuse survivor. And so I kept that a secret for a very long time. And I remember when I did come out and admit that had happened to me, I was so surprised, and it had happened to so many other people that I knew, that, again, like releasing the secret, I think can be healing in so many ways.
I'm so glad that you're doing this for the multitude of things that you're discussing out in the world, sexual abuse and hair loss, because I'm literally also sitting here thinking, we go through so much in a lifetime. Does it feel more empowering as you reveal? Is it vulnerable at first and then empowering?
I mean, I think it's all of the above. I didn't want to be the poster child for hair loss for women, but now that I sort of am, I'm just grateful that I'm in a position of like really loving myself and appreciating that my body works, that I'm not in pain, that my hair grew back. And I want to mention that I've partnered with this amazing company called Harkliniken, and they've been instrumental, I believe, in getting my hair to grow back, not only grow back to where it was, but also better than it was. It's healthier and more vibrant than I ever thought possible. And it's been an amazing partnership, and I'm just thrilled to be able to share that with my audience.
I mean, I have had some really intense secrets at certain times of my life, and it really did have an amazing physical effect on me. Like I was in a hospital at one point getting MRIs. I lost sight. My stomach was distended. I had hair loss. Like, stress is so physical, and yet we're so afraid to tell someone what's really going on. And I get convinced that the other side is worse. And so by you doing this, I just think you're going to inspire people to get so much better, so much quicker.
I hope so. I mean, I hope so. And every part of my life has improved since kind of shedding this pain and suffering that I was going through. And, people that don't go through hair loss, they can't really relate. They don't understand, but it was a big deal. It was something that consumed my life. And so now that I'm on the other side of it, I found this amazing partner, and I'm in this beautiful relationship. And so much of my life, and of course we're in the time of this pandemic. So it's like this crazy time that I just like feel like I'm in a place of just peace and joy, which I did not expect or see coming. And we have a lot to be thankful for.
I am picking up everything you are putting down, and I'm just enveloping myself in all the beauty and goodness.